That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We are joined now by Joel Lorenzi. He covers the Oklahoma City Thunder for the Oklahoman. Formerly in a past life, used to hang out with us quite a bit up here in Omaha, covering Creighton. What's up, Joel? How you been?
What's up, man? It's good to hear your voice, man.
Listen, we gave you I get it. You beat the
Yo, you
brakes
know
off
how this
those
goes.
guys
I know it's
last
a
night,
conversation.
man, but it's too late in the day for the sultry dulcetones, man. Like I'm gonna need you to get it in gear.
Look, dude, the program never changed. I mean, Creighton basketball. You got to think Creighton basketball. However late I used to write then, you got to add the NBA tax to that. So this is a hour or two later. Then this is the NBA finals. So add another hour to that.
Wow.
You
So
add all
so
that
what are you
together.
going on
I'm getting
about
too tired.
about three good ones maybe?
Yeah, I got like three and a half, four.
That's not terrible. And then plus with this soft schedule playing every 38 days, can we kind of speed this up with what's going on with the finals, or are we on this LeBron thing where we're lobbying to get a month off between the regular season and playoffs?
Wow, what an elderly complaint. I like the 2 days off.
Wow. I'm not that old. The two
You're
days is
not, so I'm really surprised to
the
hear
two
that
days
from
is
you.
fine. It's fine. That's a cold shot,
That
Joel, man.
Bro,
Welcome
NBA
back.
fans just love to complain, man.
uh,
It is weird for a sport that's already under the microscope. Its own fan base does eat it alive. I'll give you that.
Yeah,
I'll give you that.
yeah. I think I mean we fans complain so much during the rest of these playoffs about oh there was only 1 day between games, how rigorous the schedule is. So I mean, this is the finals, like you probably gotta, like what's the hurry? Are you're gonna rush so that there's like a week before the draft. Like they got nothing to hurry for. So I can appreciate the 2 days. Is all.
so, Joel, let me take you back to game one here because obviously Thunder have a big lead for much of that game, and then we saw Indiana do what Indiana has continued to do throughout the playoffs. First of all, what was that like watching in person and kind of experiencing that? And then, second, what was kind of the vibe leaving that game for Oklahoma City after it went down that way?
Um, I think like game one, like that's a tough way to lose. It's also not the first time in these playoffs that they've lost that way. I mean, game one in the Denver series was eerily similar. And so they had the experience of basically a game that they controlled almost wire to wire and still managed to basically forfeit. I mean, this time you could argue. I mean, the final minute or so they were different, but the meltdowns were similar in nature. So obviously you come out of that like one. I think there's dread in that. Like, hey, how did we let this happen again? And I think there's dread in coupled with that feeling is, hey, like we came into the series, we knew what the Pacers were capable of. How did we still become victimized like these other four teams, um, or like the other four instances where they came back on a team, down 15 late in a game, because they've been the comeback kids in these playoffs. I think there was that realization for them was bitter. So I think you had all those feelings swimming. They were such heavy favorites entering the series in that game, like 11-point favorites or something pretty crazy. Um, so I think that they could taste their own blood was a not a great feeling for them.
Mm.
But they've been the type to they only lost, I believe, 2 games in a row once this year. Dating back to last year, they didn't even lose 3 games in a row once throughout the whole regular season. So this is a team that pretty quickly turns the page. They don't really dwell on stuff that's them buying into a lot of this uh, there's no other way to put it. The team's jargon, where they love to say 0-0. We're back at 0-0 after every result, and so that's them buying into that. And I thought that's what you saw last night was this is what happens when they lose in these playoffs. I mean, when it happened in the Denver series the first time, they beat them in game 2 by 43. So this is a team that knows how to regroup, and especially at game 1, I thought. And I know they felt similarly. They lost it obviously by a hair in the final second, but it was the buildup of all these things that were controllable and certainly not out of reach for them. They didn't convert on turnovers. They lost the rebounding battle by a mile. Like, this is things they look back on and like, where did we go wrong? Chet and Dub had 2 of the worst games of their playoffs. Like, these were all things that, if you even improved at them, by a slim margin, you certainly would have won that game.
Where do you come out on controlling the controllables versus a narrative that we kind of saw have it creep its way into it? Because really, from an experience standpoint, especially with Siakam and Carlisle, experience advantage goes to the Pacers as an advantage. And you heard some whispers, well, it's part of the growing process. OKC's got to learn to win. Maybe that's part of it, but it sounds like you think more of it has to do with our guys just need to be guys, or maybe a little of both.
A little of both. I mean, for them, because you're right, like the only guy that's been to these finals for them is Alex Caruso. So like the experience thing is going to be a continuous talking point. For them, it's been about execution. I do think the one thing, because they'll push back on this too. Like I think Taysom Wallace, who's like very like gentle in nature and isn't a man of a lot of words. Like, he even pushed back on this idea that they haven't faced adversity
right.
or that their adversity is sort of abnormal compared to other teams, which it is. Like, they haven't, Boston, before they climbed the mountaintop, took like 7 or 8 years of like agony and like conference finals falling short, sort of repeat fortunes over and over. And obviously the Thunder didn't go through that. Like, this is the second season that they're even in the postseason in this iteration of the team. So their adversity does look different, but they'll be quick to tell you, like, hey, we've gone through adversity. It just looks different. Like, this year, dealing with a time where they had no centers for, weeks on end. When Chet Holmgren, they weren't even sure. I think a lot of people weren't even sure if he was going to come back this year, and if that estimate of when he was going to come back was iffy or, off, and he ends up coming back even before the timeline the team gives, from, breaking his hip, basically. They had so many things happen. I think the thing we underestimated for them was, that I don't think we realized they can get the experience they needed within the playoff run. Like, I think the Denver series was a big turning point for them, and they'll tell you, like, that was kind of them getting over the hump, being able to win a 7-game series. Obviously, people, you can say what you want about Denver, but Nikola Jokic is still, to this day, the guy that's commanded the most attention from their defense. I mean, 2 guys, 3 guys, the amount of adjustments, like, that they left out of that series victorious was a big deal for them. And so they've kind of gotten the experience they needed in this playoff run. Not to say that they're just some wildly experienced team, but it is scary that, a lot of the experiences they can draw back on, even after game 1 of this series, was like, hey, we kind of went through this in the Denver series. Look how we lost that game. Like, they've managed to win games a lot of ways in these playoffs, and you look back on that series, and they kind of draw back on that more than anything.
I'm glad you brought up Chet Holmgren here, because I think the way he's used is really interesting. And, we saw him play not a ton of minutes in game 1. Didn't have to take a heavy load in game 2 just because of kind of what the score was, but did play more. How do you think Daigneault's done in using sort of Chet Holmgren's really unique skill set against different lineups?
Especially the fact
Yeah.
Miles Turner can't guard me.
Hey man, he guarded Chet pretty well last game. Game one.
Chet settles. Chet just has to get at him.
I think Chet, his issue in game one and quite a few games since he's come back from this like miraculous hip thing is that he's really tried to like force some of the plays he could make before it happened. I'm not saying he can't return to that player, but clearly he needs an off season to do so. So like some of the mobility and stuff is not there. So I just thought that, he tried to rush and like, you know, really like flex is like fantastic for Mr. Fantastic wingspan around Miles Turner on some of those drives. It's like, dude, Miles Turner is not going for that. Now, I thought what he did better in game two and where where Daigneault kind of got more involved in this was he was just better off the ball. I thought like he got more threes. He was more effective off the ball, popping, that sort of thing. I thought where Daigneault was helpful, and I thought so many people were stunned to see in game one was that, the lineup he's leaned on him has been super strict about like, hey, we're not playing anything else. It's double big. He's been playing Hardenstein and Chet ever since Chet came back and starting that lineup. That lineup started the entire playoffs until game one, and people were like, hold on, why is Mark kind of reacting before the series even starts, before the series even tells him what to do? And he did the same thing in game two because obviously, that lineup forced more or less most of the 24 first half turnovers Indy had in game one. They just didn't convert on them. But then he does play double big by the end of the first quarter, and it gives OKC some optionality. Like, hey, Hardenstein's going to roll. Chet can roll some, but he's going to pop and he's going to force these guys like, hey, they're going to have to make a decision, and you're going to know whether they want to defend Chet for the three-point line or not, or whether they're going to be slow to recover, whatever. And by the end of that first quarter, like Shai is really actively looking for Chet to get him involved and understanding the weight of what a hot Chet can do, and found him for 2 threes before the end of the quarter. And so I thought Chet, kind of he let the game tell him what to do and popped and was necessary and hit threes. And Daigneault went back to the bread and butter. Like that lineup, that combination, Hardenstein and Chet didn't even play once in game one, which was like unbelievable for people who watched those guys. And there's been criticism of that combination. So like people were like, maybe, I think generally people were fine that they didn't start together, but that they didn't play at all, and that they didn't, that neither of them played in the final 3 minutes was jarring, I think, to a lot of people. And so Daigneault went back to what it is, what he knows, and I thought it worked wonders.
Don't get Ravi started on Daigneault. He is not a huge fan of late game decision making.
I don't love how he handles the up three, Joel. I don't love it.
I hear you and the rest of the world, and for what it's worth, that philosophy's not changing. But I think, like, to defend him some, like, he's as much. We talk about experience for this roster. He's gone through as many playoff series as a head coach as somebody as J-Dub and Chet have. Like, this is the staffs. They're going through the same amount of playoff series, so they're kind of going through these experiences too. So I know he's at different points. Like, it's been easy to be critical of him, but I do think people sort of forget that. And he's still a good coach either way, but he's not exactly Rick Carlisle. Like, Rick Carlisle has seen every possible picture there is.
Joel, let me get you out of here on this. We've had lots and lots and lots of debates on Tyrese Haliburton over the last handful of years, Mr. Ravi and I. We know we always talk about what he's not. He doesn't do this, or he's not that, or elite change of direction. Your opinion watching him, what makes him so tough to guard in crunch time?
I think he kind of there's an unpredictability. One, if the scenario is like game one where you're not coming out of the timeout and he's pushing a break. He's one of the scarier players when he's coming off a rebound and pushing a break.
Even though he's not like a blow-by guy, he's made that stop. I mean, he's not SGA, but he's made that first step or angles. It's awkward.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great court mapper, I think, and the vision is great. So I think that's one. And two, if it does become, a scenario where he has time to dribble and they have time to get into an action or whatever, I do think he has that combination. He got into some of this, I thought, in the fourth quarter last night. It was just too little too late. He has that where he doesn't have to be on the ball. He could just as easily, try to juke around the handoff or a fake handoff or whatever, and pop a three, because he is a great moving shooter like that. I know it looks different than traditional moving shooters, like even like Reggie Miller of their franchise. Like, it doesn't look the same, but he's great, like shooting something, moving off the catch or whatever. And so when you have to kind of worry about that too, I think it becomes tougher to guard him. You're seeing a defender kind of like overrun the handoff, and he goes the other way. Like, these are just the things you have to worry about. And obviously he's great in the ball screen too. So he just can give it to you multiple ways, and then you just got the clutch ding. Maybe it's the shoes he said the other night, but I just think he's going to be clutch. It's the most unique thing I've ever seen, where a guy, his fingerprints as a scorer might not be all over the entire game. He's not gripping the game like Shai, where he's constantly driving down your throat and drilling mid-range jumpers. That dude's incredible. But Tyrese is going to come with it in the final 3 or so minutes, 5 or so minutes, if that game is within range. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen from a star.
All right, Joel, we'll let you out here on this real quick. Series tied 1-1. How many games are we getting? Who's coming out on top?
I think 6.
God, I said gentleman's sweep, but that was before the loss in the game 1 loss.
Yeah, this is a series now, and I think I had a Thunder in 5 originally too.
Yeah,
I did. That was under the assumption though that Indy was gonna get a game in Indy. I don't think I've changed that stance. So, I'd say in 6. I think the Thunder ends up winning it in Indy. So
that's our guy, Joel Lorenzi. Joel, good to talk to you again. Miss hanging around after Creighton games, chopping it up with you. Hope you're doing well down in Oklahoma.
Always, likewise, guys.
Hey, appreciate it. Get some rest, champ.
Yes, sir.